So here we go. The connection between statistics and us. We make decisions every day. We may not realize that statistics is part of our lives. It's really important to make good decisions. In businesses, these decisions translate into profit. So we want to make sure we learn a little bit of statistics to help us making good decisions for our lives. Right here, we have another term, which is data. And this term is actually the plural. If you want to know, if you're curious, what is the singular for data is datum. So let's go ahead and give the definition of data. Well, data consists of information, and this information comes from observations, measurements, counts, or simply responses. So this is what data are, as simple as information. Now we will define another key term, and this will be defined along with more key terms. So let's just go ahead and write down key terms. So we will start with population. Population is a collection of all persons, things, or objects under study. And it's important to realize that we have this word or, all. So in a population, we include all person, things, or objects under study. Now, it's very difficult to collect information from all. Sometimes it's impossible, sometimes it's time-consuming, it's costly, and for that reason, instead of using all, we use a subset of the population. We just use some persons, objects, or things under study. And if we do that, we arrive at the definition of a sample. So that will be the collection of some. And I will use this because I don't want to write again the same thing. This symbols means you should repeat what's on the top, person, things, or objects under study. So the population is the set of all. The sample is a subset of the population. As a note, I will write this down here, and actually we will talk about the sample in a different video. As a note, the sample must be representative of the population. And what does this mean? This means that the sample must possess all characteristics of the population. We will talk about sampling techniques that will ensure that the sample is representative of the population. And now I will move on to two more key terms related to population and samples. And these key terms are parameter and then statistics. Let's just go ahead and define parameter. Parameter is a numerical value. It's a number that represents a property of the population. A number that represents some property of the population. And to realize that parameter is a numerical description of the population. For example, if I am interested on the average number of courses students take at this college, I will do a study. In this study, I will simply include all students, the entire population, and I'll come up with what I'm interested in. This is a numerical description, average number of courses at this college. I will use all students. And because I'm using all students, because I'm using the entire population, I expect this to be a fixed value. This is a fixed value. This will not change. A parameter is a fixed value. Keep that in mind. If instead of the population, I'm using a sample, that number that represents the property of a sample is called a statistic. So this is a number that represents a property of the sample. So keep that in mind. if we are looking for information from the sample and we figure out some property, we express that as a numerical value, then we found a statistic. As an example, I'll just write this down. Let's just say the purpose of the study is to look for the average number of courses a student take at this college. But instead of all students, I will be using some students. For example, some students in my spring semester, I will just use a class in my spring semester, or maybe, and then I'll use the class on my fall semester. I'll just use some samples. Well, do I expect to have one number, average number of courses? Well, my spring semester will have an average. My fall semester will probably have a different value as a result. So this value is not fixed. It really depends on the sample that I use. Keep that in mind. A statistic, it's not a fixed value. And I hope this makes sense. And that's something that you'll have to remember. The parameter is always a fixed value. The statistic, it's not a fixed value. Okay? Just because right here I'm using samples, and each sample will get to a different value. Right here I'm using a population, and the population can get to only one value because I'm using all members or all subjects. Another cool way to remember these definitions or these key terms, and I'll write this down right here. Remember that if you start with population, the numerical description of the population is called a parameter. And look at this. Population starts with P, parameter starts with P. And the same way, if you start with a sample, numerical description of the sample is called a statistic. And now, if you look at the letter that these words start with, it is the same letter. It is. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. And I will continue this video with the second video. There are more terms to define, but until then, thank you for watching.